What is resonance? Why do we keep talking about it as singers? And why is it important for you to know? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Singing Simply Show. My name is Ivan, and on this podcast, we aim to demystify everything related to learning how to sing. Because let's face it, learning to sing can often feel confusing. It can be challenging and confusing for some of you, especially if you're starting off. And so I want to break it down for you and help you build your voice and prove to yourself that you're not your limitations. So the question that we're tackling today is, does everything have resonance? And also some of the sub questions, which is, what is resonance? Why is it important? And today's question was actually inspired by someone off my social media. Shout out to all octaves. If that's you, thank you so much for this question. And if you want to be the person inspiring our next question for the next episode, please leave it to me on Instagram at Sing with Ivan, or if you check down below on Spotify, because I know most of you guys are listening on Spotify, you can actually drop your question directly there and I'll get back to you. And so today we're going to be tackling all about resonance, talking about resonance, what it is, why is it important, and also, does everything have resonance, which is where this question really came from. And so if this is something you've been looking to learn or you've been confused about, check out today's episode. Now, first of all, why is it even important to talk about resonance? And the reason why this is important is, if we boil it down, having good resonance is all about efficiency, making your voice more efficient, more easy to use, and also about finding the right color, because people love hearing a clear, focused sound. It can just cut through in the songs, cut through in your performances, and allow people to really hear your voice for the way it is. And so this is why it is really, really important. In fact, when people work with me for 3 months in my summit program, that's one of the first things we actually tackle: finding the resonance, finding the buzz, which I'll be talking about more in our next episode on how exactly do we find the resonance that we're looking for. But for today, I'd love to break it down and help you understand what is resonance. First of all, what is resonance? Resonance is basically a amplification of a sound or part of a sound to make it louder, to make it stronger, to make it more colorful, right? And ideally in a way that is aesthetically pleasing. So it makes your listener want to listen to it more. But if we dive a bit further down into the physics of it, basically you need two ingredients. You need to have a source, a place that creates these energy, this vibration, these energy sources. And you also need to have a space, a chamber, an area, right, to actually have the resonance happen. And when you got the source and you've got this space and they work together, you can create this awesome phenomenon called resonance. And chances are you've already experienced this before. Now, easy one is, when you're in the bathroom, right? One of the reasons why when you're in the bathroom, it sounds so good is you, the sound source, are in the space, your bathroom. And when you make a sound, the space is amplifying certain parts of your sound, usually in a way that makes it sound aesthetically pleasing, which is why, bathroom singing can be so cool. Now, we can also apply this to a lot of instruments, because if you think of it like piano, the guitar, they all have a source and they also have a body or a space. Because look at the piano, right? Think of a big grand piano. You've got the keys, you hit the keys, and what that key does is it gets a hammer, which then smacks onto a metal string. And that creates the vibrations, the source of the sound. And that goes throughout that beautiful big body of the piano, and that gets amplified. It gets shaped into the sound that we love called the grand piano. Now, for a guitar, right, when you flick the strings or you strum, those strings will vibrate, right? But then they get amplified, or they get resonated by the body of the guitar. And so this is how we get that sound, that beautiful sound of the guitar. Now, the crazy part, and the reason why I'm telling you this, is this also applies to a voice. Because say, if you cut my head off and you got me to make a sound, so my vocal folds, which are these little pieces of tissue and muscle in my throat, they start to vibrate and they create this sound, right? If you cut my head off and you listen to it, it wouldn't sound anything like my voice that you're hearing right now. It probably will sound a bit more like a buzz, a zzz, kind of a little bit of annoying little buzz. But what gives it the volume, what gives it the color, what gives it the beauty is then that sound has to then travel through my vocal tract, which is the space, the chamber that we talked about. and that shapes it, it amplifies it, it colors it, and it creates this sound, which is my voice. And this is the thing that you're hearing. And so, why is this important? When you learn to shape your resonance, when you learn to shape your throat and your mouth in a way that's pleasing, and you've got a great source, a good sounding source, that helps you create a really efficient voice. Now that we've broken down what resonance is, why it is important, I'd love to leave you all with a little exercise, a little idea to start working towards this. Now, next episode, we will be talking more about how do we actually find a good resonance, what are the different types of resonance we've got with our sound. But I want to let this idea of resonance simmer in for now. Because, the interesting thing is when I'm coaching my singers, sometimes even just sharing the idea in a way that helps you understand it, that already makes your singing better. And you just got to play around with it. You got to let it simmer for a bit more. Now, if you're interested in that next episode, just make sure you follow and save this podcast. So when the next episode, which gets released, which is next Friday, I usually release a episode every single Friday, then you will be able to check that out as well. In the meantime, until that episode, one little exercise I'd love to leave you with is playing around with your voice, just shaping your throat, shaping your mouth in different shapes, right? And notice how that affects the sound and the resonance. Just play and just explore and just have fun with your voice. Just make some sounds. And by doing this, you're already one step closer to building a voice that you want. All right, team. So that wraps up our episode today on resonance. Does everything have resonance? What it is and why it is important. And if I were you, I'd watch this and listen to this episode again, because chances are you may have missed something as you were listening to this episode. And also, if you're interested in our episode next week, where we talk about how do we find the right resonance, how do we build it, and how do we start shaping our voice in a way that's efficient, but also pretty, right? If that sounds like something you are interested in, make sure to follow this podcast. Make sure to save it so when the next episode gets released next Friday, you'll be one of the first people to get access to that. Apart from that, team, if you have any questions on today's topic or any questions about learning how to sing, drop it into the question below. If you guys are on Spotify, if you guys aren't on Spotify, just DM me on Instagram. That's going to be a great way to get connected with me. And remember, you are not your limitations. Take care.